Hey, this is Brian. Thanks for watching Kies Motorsports. I recently put some 9.5-inch wide rims on the car, and as you can see, my tires kind of stick out a little bit. Actually, much more in the front than in the rear. But my main problem is actually, if you look here, you can see it says Michelin, but it's kind of shaved down a little bit. What's happening is the tire is actually jamming up under here. You can even see I've started to have some paint chipping. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of try to pull this out in the back a little bit, and then in the front we're going to roll the inside of the fender flat, and then we're just going to do a very slight pull just to try to get a little bit better fitment with this. So some people use a bat. Obviously you wouldn't use a wiffle ball bat, and they try to roll it and pull it, and other people get foam books. They put it on the tire and then they let the car slam and they jump on it. We're going to show you how to do it the right way with an Eastwood fender roller. So go ahead and take off your tire. Alright, so now what you want to do is in the fender well, you'll see there are 3 of these 10mm plastic nuts. So there's one here, there's one about right here, there's one right in the middle, and then there's one over to this side, if you can see that. So what you want to do is go ahead and start by removing those. I like to just put a 10mm socket on here. Just makes it a lot easier, a lot quicker. So you can see they're just plastic, they come off really easy. So once you've done that, just go ahead and release your fender lining, and then just push it in a little bit. I'm just gonna try to get this out of the way. You don't have to completely remove it or anything. Just be careful when you are pushing it. Mine was really dusty, so you don't want to get any of that junk in your eyes or anything. All right, so once you've pulled back your, thank you.
You're welcome.
Once you've pulled back your fender liner a little bit, what you want to do is go ahead and take your fender roller. I like to just keep everything loose. Put it on the hub. So just go ahead and just twist it until you find the correct lug pattern, and then always put these metal rings on. I'll show you those in just one second. So these have a little indent, so you just follow the indent, put those in. When you put these in, you don't have to go crazy tight or anything. I just go hand tight. I just take a socket and just go hand tight. There's no, as long as it's snug, there's no reason to kill it. Let's go ahead and just put the rest of these on. Alright, so once you have them on there and it seems pretty snug, what we can do is we can go ahead and line everything else up. So what you want to try to do is you want to try to match this basically with the way that your fender is. So you don't want to go, like, you wouldn't want to go at an extreme angle. You want to just very gradually go ahead and start to form and to pull out the fender. What people do when they mess up, they try to go too aggressive too quick, and it just gets bad and they mess it up. So just take your time and go slow, and you should be okay. Now the inside of this fender isn't perfectly flat. There's actually 2 pieces that look like they're almost like tarred together. BMW uses this weird tar stuff to kind of sink the pieces together. So we're going to try and leave that there. I have seen where people go and they actually Dremel it out, and then they actually go back, they'll roll the fender, and then they'll reseal it. Now because I don't need to get all that much more clearance, I'm going to go ahead and leave it and see if we can just gradually roll this out, and then we'll go from there and see if it works. If not, we'll have to go back and Dremel, but let's try this way first. So at this point, what you want to do is make sure you have chocks under the front wheels. Both tires is best. You can even put one on the other tire on the rear as well. And then what we have to do is we have to release the e-brake so that we can move this around. So go ahead and do that. Okay, so with the car in park, I wasn't able to actually move the fender roller. So what I had to actually do, I started the car, I put it in neutral, and then I just turn the car off. So it's beeping at me right now, telling me that it's not secured. So again, you want to make sure your car is on jack stands. You want to make sure that your wheels are chocked, or your car will fall off and it will roll down the street and it will be a bad day. The next part that you want to do is you want to go ahead and get your heat gun, and you want to heat the area till it's pretty hot to the touch. You want to be able to hold your hand on there for maybe a half second to a second. You don't want to go too hot, and whenever you're using a heat gun, you never want to stay in one spot for more than a second or so, because you can start to burn that area of the paint. So just go ahead and start to heat the area up until it's pretty hot to the touch, and then we'll go forward. Again, make sure that you don't go too hot, because you could boil the paint and you could ruin it that way as well. All right, so at this point it's pretty hot to the touch. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and line up our roller. Make sure that when you line it up, it's pretty much in the center. You never want to have it too far up, because what could happen is you could actually put a crease from this line right here in the back of your fender. Now, because of how this fender is shaped, it's probably not really going to be a problem for this car, but for other cars, and especially when you're doing the front. You also never want to have it too far off, too far down, because you'll notice that when you go to one side, it could slip completely off. So you can see if I have it over here, it's on a little bit, and then by the time you get to here, it's completely off. So you want to make sure that you just kind of play with that angle and see what fits best. And when you're doing this, you want to make sure that your angles are very subtle. You don't want to have, unless you're going for that look, you don't want to have it actually flare out. So go ahead and secure the top here. Now this is more pulling the fenders, because what we're doing is we're actually pulling it out. There's really nothing to roll. Normally when you have a roll, the inside of your fender will look like a V, and you're just collapsing that metal. So because the back fender doesn't have that, we're just going to try to pull it out a little bit. So now what you want to do is just go ahead and just very slowly, just keep going back and forth. Make sure that you take your time, don't rush, because a lot of times when people mess up, it's because they rushed it. So then what you want to do is just gradually pull it out. And then to make the roller pull out, what you want to do is you want to just twist it a little bit counterclockwise. Just make sure that you're keeping an eye on your roller to make sure that your angle's good and that you're not creating any additional creases or anything. The biggest thing is you want to go slow. You don't want to go fast and reckless with this. What you're really doing is you're massaging the metal out. A, it's going to help the paint not crack, and B, it's going to make sure that everything is formed correctly. And as you're going, it will be cooling down, so make sure that you heat it up along the way as well. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do a test fit. Now for safety, I did put the e-brake on and I put it back in park. So let's go ahead and put the wheel back on. Now this is actually starting to look really good. I'm trying to maintain that factory look and feel, but I'll just show you. Now I know the car is sitting on pieces of wood over there, but if you look down here, you can see it's pretty flat and you see a lot of tire. On this side, it's just a little bit bowed out. I bowed it out a little bit too much right there, so I just have to kind of even this out, just keep working the metal. But you can see everything is pretty much tucked under for the most part. A lot better than this side over here. So over here, I know it's really hard to see with the camera, but when I look at the metal here, I see it would go down, it would hit right here. But then when we look at this side, when I go on the metal, it would hit a little bit lower. So I am still going to go ahead and pull this out a little bit more. Now, as far as how much do you actually turn it, I've been doing about a quarter turn, sometimes a half turn, depending on how it's going, and so far it's going really well. I can definitely see that it's pulled out. I mean, it's pretty much impossible to see on the camera, but this used to be straight down and now it's at a slight angle, which is what I was going for. So the pulling process has been working great. So let's keep going. So after you've done your test fitting and you decide where you really like your fender to be, don't forget to put these little plastic 10mm nuts back in here. Whenever you're using an impact gun, you'll notice in a lot of the videos I use an electric one, just because it's really easy. You just plug it into the wall, and I forget how many foot-pound torque this is. So what I always do though is I always use torque sticks. So basically what these are, they're different preset torque settings. So like this is 65, 75. It goes up, this kit goes up to 150. And basically how it works is, I don't know exactly how it works, to be honest with you, but from what my understanding, it's kind of like a spring. So once it gets to a certain tension, it'll start to twist, and then it'll trigger the impact setting on your impact gun. So I'll show you what I mean. So once you go, this one's set to 100, so it'll stop at 100. So I tested with a torque wrench. It seems pretty good. I found that it's pretty much within like 5 foot-pound torque. So they've been really reliable so far. So again, it's a really bad idea if you just hook this up to that socket, because I think this can do about 250 foot-pound torque. So you'll just destroy everything with that. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll set it up to a lesser torque setting and then go back and hand torque it down. All right, so the tire's on, the fender liner is back with those 3 10mm nuts installed. So let's lower it and check it out. For the front, what we want to do is we want to do more of a traditional fender roll. So if you see right here, I know it's kind of hard to see with the light, you can see that it's V'd out and this side's a little bit sharp. So what we want to do, the goal is to push the back of this just flat against the inside of the fender. For the front, my main goal is to do a roll, which again is more to just get this metal right here to go flat against here. But I am going to do just an ever so slight pull, just because even though my wheel does stick out, it doesn't really hit much. So I think if I take care of this inner lip, it'll take care of any problem that I have. All right, so go ahead and set it up the exact same way we did the other side. Make sure it's nice and snug. Now on my front, I didn't have to put it in neutral. I left it in park, and then obviously the e-brake is on because that only controls the rear tires. Before you start rolling, don't forget to heat the area up. And just remember, you don't want to have the roller too high because you could crease up top here. And you want to just go and start a very mild angle and then just do it again and then just increase your angle. So we're just going to go ahead and start rolling. And then while you're rolling, it's really important, again, make sure that your roller isn't too high up because you don't want to actually create another crease. And just go ahead and make some small changes as you go. That's a very tiny wrench you found there. But I realize that there's some areas that are, I don't want to say trouble spots, but you can't just do a huge sweep and get everything. You'll have to, so like, for example, this area right here, I had to go ahead and completely adjust where this was positioned because it was hitting the fender liner. I actually have to lower it a little bit more. But if I was to just go ahead and try to do a big pass, once I get to about here, you can see it's not really touching anything. So I don't want to create any dents or anything like that. And so we're just going to go ahead and just slowly start to work this little area right here. So again, I'm only working about right here to here. Rolled my finger and it hurt really bad. Alright, so here's a quick look at kind of where we're at. So if you look down on the tire from pretty much straight up, you can see that it goes over most of the tire. And then if we look down the line, you can see that the front tire pretty much disappears. Now, if we move over to the other side, if we hold this pretty much at the same angle, we can see we have a lot more tire, but then the front is the most noticeable. So if you look down the line, you can see that monster tire is just really poking out. Kind of looks like a monster truck. But if you look right here at this flat portion, you can really see the difference. So you can see the tire sticking out. And I tried to go for subtle. This is my first time rolling, so I have to kind of smooth some things out. But you can see that there's just like a slight lip. If I try to get this just straight down, you could see the side of it, where the other one, it just goes straight down and you can't see. So it's just a very minimal angle. So I'll show you another test to see if your tire fits in well. And with the front, same thing, it just kind of bowed out a little bit. And then I also have the fender, the inside flat. I rolled that in nice and flat. And it covers most of the tire, so if we hit a bump, it should go in. Now, I didn't really have any problems with these hitting, even though they stick out so far. I don't know how they don't hit. It should just help improve it though. So here's a shot at the front on the other side that's not rolled. So again, it's pretty flat, and we just see massive amounts of tire. And then in the back, here's stock. You can just see there's just a heck of a lot more tire here. These tires are actually kind of dry rotted, so they need to be replaced anyway. So here's a little test you could do. So you can see that I have the front jacked up pretty high. Even the back tire is starting to lift up. But if you jack, say, the front right up, what's going to happen is it's going to really compress the opposite side of the car. So I like to do what I call the cardboard test. Now, another alternative to do this is you can actually take off your springs and your suspension, but the problem with that is it just takes forever. And you know, in all honesty, I just don't have the time in the day. But what I can do, as you can see, I can freely move this through here. So that's a good sign that it's not hitting and we pulled it out enough. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and jack up this side of the car, and you can see what it used to look like. All right, so I went ahead and jacked up this side to about the same. So here's a test of the other side. So if we go, you can see that it gets stuck in there, especially the area from here really to here. So that this big area right here is a real problem area. But as you saw on the other side, once we pulled this out a little bit, we got rid of that problem. All right, so what I did now is I just jacked up the rear driver side pretty far. I mean, you can see I did it so far that I could fit a fist under the front tire. But like I was saying, I didn't really have a problem with these hitting. I could still fit my hand in here with ease. So the tire actually sort of goes under. So I think if I pulled this out just a little bit, it would look like the other side and it would just make it just a little bit better. All right, same test. I just jacked the rear passenger seat up. So let's go check out the fender that I did roll. So it just, with this rolled in, I guess if I hit a really big bump, it could compress and go up there. You can see along the tire here. Now these were used when I got them, so I don't know if this was a result of my fender or someone else's, but it definitely hit some fender. So I'm just trying to do this as more of a preventative measure, but yeah, hopefully it fixes any problems. Again, this is Brian. Thanks for watching Kies Motorsports. One thing I did want to clarify is I mentioned earlier that I had 9.5-inch rims. It's not so much the width, although that does have a factor. It's more the offset. So these are just a more aggressive offset. So normally when we talk about tools, we like to put an Amazon affiliate link in there just to help you be able to find it. And it helps support us to make videos like this. And what I realized is there was one guy selling them for like 250 bucks. So I went to Eastwood directly, and they had some, like a $10 coupon. So I ended up, I think I paid about 65 bucks for this. They say you should never get the cheap ones on Amazon or eBay, because what happens is A, the rollers are junk, and then B, what happens is these welds snap. You know, you spend the 65 bucks once. I mean, unfortunately, you're probably just gonna use it on your own car unless you go in with a couple buddies or something and you guys all share it. Or you can just buy it and then sell it again for pretty much what you paid for it, because these are pretty high demand. I looked for a used one on eBay and there wasn't one available, so maybe this will be on there. So again, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe, and have a great day.